Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about 10 things you need to know to protect your brain. So, hi, I'm Dr. Mark Steenerson and I am a wellness consultant. Actually, I'm just about 40 years into it now and have been fortunate to have over 50,000 client visits, trained in nutrition, biofeedback, trauma, detoxification, weight loss, gut health. And I previously did chiropractic. So, I like to have everybody watch this video here because I really want you to think about this as to which road do you want to go down. So let's watch this video together.
What will your last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide. The average Canadian will spend their last 10 years in sickness. Change your future at makehealthlast.ca.
So every time I see that, it has such a profound effect on me because when I look at it, the most important possession that we all have is our health. We cannot enjoy our life without our health. So we're going to switch gears here and talk about the brain because the brain is the most important organ that we have. It conducts all the messages back and forth to all the cells in the body and the organs. And really, it's the master controller, the computer that controls everything. So if you take a look at this diseased brain with advanced Alzheimer's. Look at the holes in the brain. Look at the size, how the brain is actually shrunk up as compared to a healthy brain. So we want to stay over here, and we're going to show you how to avoid having this type of a brain here. So there's 10 reasons for dementia, and we're going to go through all 10 of these reasons here individually and visit about them. So the first one we talk about is type 3 diabetes. That is where we get diabetes of the brain, really. That's called type 3. It leads to Alzheimer's and dementia and all kinds of different problems in the brain. It's caused from toxic chemicals, high fructose corn syrup, high carbohydrate diets, juice, donuts, all kinds of chemicals that are also put into the diet as well and into our food. And when we look at this, type 3 diabetes occurs when the neurons in the brain, those are the things that fire and cause the brain to function, become unable to respond to insulin, and it is essentially essential for basic tasks, including memory and learning. So we're going to have some, I can't remember stuff. I go in the room and don't know why I'm there, which can lead into the Alzheimer's type of thing. By the way, with Alzheimer's, just so you know, 1 out of 7 adults is now getting Alzheimer's. And by the year 2030, they predict that 1 out of 3. So this isn't a little thing. This is a major, major problem. So insulin's number 2 on the list here. When we take a look at this, insulin is the hormone that goes into the bloodstream, secreted by the pancreas, and grabs or tells the body to take sugar out of the bloodstream and into the cells and into the liver and either store it or turn it into fat. So we can become what we call insulin resistant. And if you haven't seen my video on blood sugar, I really recommend you watch that because we go into great detail explaining how when insulin can't get into the cell, the blood sugar can't get in there also, and it will raise up in the arteries and the vessels and ultimately into the brain, causing those problems, type 3 diabetes. Now this one here is one that we don't talk about very much. It's called monosodium glutamate. It's a neuroexcitotoxin. It excites the brain, and it goes off like what we call a glutamate bomb in the brain. Creates all kinds of problems. So we see this a lot in foods because it is a flavor enhancer. It gets on your taste buds and makes you crave that food more. So we see it a lot in different Chinese type foods, but different salt additives we see it in, all kinds of things. And it can really create a problem with you. Some of the symptoms are asthma, headaches, flushing, sweating, psychiatric disorders, convulsions, migraines, nausea, fuzzy thinking, diarrhea, heart palpitations, mood swings, burning and tingling in your muscles, muscle weakness, numbness, chest pain, and back pain. So sometimes we have all these different symptoms. We don't know where they're coming from. Well, MSG is one of the things that we look at as that excitotoxin. So next thing we look at is these artificial sweeteners like Equal and Sweet and Low and Splenda. Super bad for us. Super bad for you because they are in over 6,000 products now. Imagine that. And we've known for years that they cause things like cancer. They cause all kinds of different issues in the body. I had a patient that actually came in and was drinking about 4 to 5 diet sodas a day, which is loaded with aspartame, and developed the symptoms of MS. And the doctor was using all kinds of MS drugs and said, we just got to manage this condition. And we looked at her history, totally took her off the sodas, and within 6 weeks, her symptoms had vanished. Absolutely amazing. So anything with Equal or NutraSweet, any of those things in there, the ones that they say sugar-free, run, because they're going to be full of these kinds of artificial sweeteners. There's over 90 reported side effects of aspartame, including migraines, dizziness, anxiety. That's a huge one. Memory loss. We're talking about the brain, aren't we? And worsening of many of the disorders from fibromyalgia, which is a huge thing now, and Alzheimer's. Next one we see is with these artificial sweeteners is this thing called diacetyl, which is the butter flavoring that crosses the blood-brain barrier and can affect the lungs. So we get that in artificial popcorn and things like that. It is really nasty chemical. It causes beta amyloid clumping. That's one of the plaquing that it's like plaquing in your arteries, only in the brain, and a significant indicator in Alzheimer's. You won't see the word diacetyl on the label because they're going to hide that, and it's going to be called artificial butter flavor or natural flavors that assume that the product contains a neurotoxin. Means it's a poison to your nerves, and your brain is a bundle of nerves. Next is the heavy metals. Fish is really loaded. Nowadays, we can't eat fish, regular fish, more than a couple times a week because it's so loaded with mercury. I had a patient come in one time that got onto a sushi kick and was eating sushi just about every day of the week because they thought, well, that fish is really good for me. Ended up with severe mercury poisoning. The best fish that we want to have is the wild-caught Alaskan salmon, herring, mackerel, and sardines. Dental fillings are a severe source of this. They're loaded with this mercury. In fact, if you take 1 gram of mercury and throw it into a lake, it will poison a 10-acre lake. When we look at 2 silver fillings, that equals about 1 gram. So these things are really, really severely toxic. They cause things like mental memory loss, depression, anxiety, mood swings, numbness, and tumors. They also like to collect in the prostate of males and create things like prostate cancers and things like that. Heavy metals. Continued is aluminum. Aluminum is another big one that really damages the brain. It's in baking powder and caking agents, anti-caking agents, but may vary. Also, it could be in your drinking water. Antacids are a big one that it's in, like Tums and those kinds of things. Deodorants, and particularly antiperspirants. Beware of the antiperspirant where you don't sweat for 2 days at a time, because those poisons go back into the breast tissue or into the chest. They can't get out through your sweat, and that's that aluminum chlorhydrate that causes that. Aluminum cans and foil, cookware are all other things that you can pick up this aluminum. Aluminum has long been suspected of causing Alzheimer's since the time of the autopsies first revealed that people who had Alzheimer's also had a much larger than normal concentration of this aluminum in their brain. And one other thing that I'm going to say, because it's controversial, but it's the truth, is that they did a study and found that people that took the flu vaccine has a very high amount of aluminum in it. And unfortunately, there are other neurotoxins in it. They found that people that had a flu vaccine every year for 5 years in a row increased their risk of Alzheimer's by 10 times the general population. So you make your own decision up on that. All right, good fats and bad fats. Well, on the left, these are the ones we want to put in. The brain is made up of about 70% fat. So would it be smart to put good fats into our body? Absolutely. But these fats on the other side, these margarines, which is not even a real fat, it's a man-made fat, things they put in French fries, donuts and all that, these are hydrogenated oils and what we call partially hydrogenated. So when we put hydrogen into the oils don't break down. So when they get in your body, they don't break down. They become oxidized and very toxic. Different canola oils, sunflower oils, processed meats, all the things they put in the cookies and the pastries have these bad fats in it. So you have to avoid them like the plague if you want to have a good, healthy brain. Cholesterol-lowering drugs also have been shown. The statins have been shown to pull out a lot of the good cholesterol out of the brain and have been related to Alzheimer's and dementia with long-term use. High fructose corn syrup, once again, man-made, and it is super nasty. They made it because it's so doggone cheap to make from corn. But the problem is fructose is different than sucrose. Sucrose is regular table sugar, but fructose is very difficult to break down. In fact, the liver is the only organ that can break down fructose. Your cells can't break it down. And it's easily converted, because it doesn't break down well, to fat and weight gain. And this is in another 6,000 products. It's everywhere now. And this high fructose corn syrup is deadly. It's nasty stuff. We see it in breads and ketchups, all kinds of different things here. It's a key risk to diabetes. And I talked about obesity, weight gain, and other serious diseases. And it has no essential nutrients at all. So brain trauma. Brain trauma is a huge thing that we see, because we can pick this up, blows to the head from all kinds of things. Think about when you're little, you learn how to walk, you fall down. Then they put you on a bike, fall down, crack your head. I did that when I was a kid. Now they're at least wearing helmets. And then we get a football helmet on, run into each other with football helmets. Or we play soccer and we hit the soccer ball with our head. Or some people get into boxing or MMA, which is really crazy, because those guys get knocked out. Well, what happens when you get knocked out? It's called contra coup. It means that your brain has been hit so hard that it slams against one side of your skull, and then it goes to the other side, and as it does, it rips away from the side of the skull the attachments called the meninges and causes bleeding and damage to the brain. So these are the things that lead up to later on these memory losses, Alzheimer's, dementia, as we get older. Those repeated traumas. The average person, by the time they're 15 to 20 years old, has had up to 10,000 little traumas that they've experienced, from falls, bumps, bruises, and not to mention things like slips on the ice. Car accidents is another big one. All right, for head trauma. So I think that's really important to know and protect our brain. Poor sleep. What has sleep got to do with your brain? Well, it's everything. Do you know that if you should average between 7 to 8 hours a night sleep? If you were to sleep 6 or 5.5 hours and get up in the morning, that's like having 2 to 3 drinks of alcohol. It affects your brain in that respect, where you're going to be foggy, you're not going to be able to focus as well, and over time we get this what we call sleep deprivation. It affects us psychologically and our mental health. It causes anxiety, depression, all these things. In one study, just losing one night of sleep led to increase of that beta amyloid plaque that I was talking about that creates Alzheimer's. That's that protein. So just one night where we're not sleeping. So the worst thing we can do with sleep is not have a routine. We should go to bed generally around 10 o'clock, get up around 6 o'clock. So we do it with the sunlight is the best time for our body to heal itself. If we go to bed, say at 10 o'clock, and in the weekends we say, well, I'm going to stay up till 1 o'clock, or if we just go to bed really late every night and then try to sleep in the morning, we end up usually getting these sleep deprivations, which ends up over time causing severe brain issues. All right. Those are the 10 things that I wanted to talk about regarding your brain and how you can protect it. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to contact us. And do me a favor, if you like the content here, please share it with somebody and let them know how they can protect their brain. We really appreciate it. Otherwise, have a blessed day, and remember, your health is your wealth. Please spend it wisely.